Just as no one can be forced into belief, so no one can be forced into unbelief. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research, is, what does a woman want? The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. The intention that man should be happy is not in the plan of creation. We choose not randomly each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. Where does a thought go when it's forgotten? A woman should soften but not weaken a man. Experience teaches us that the world is not a nursery. Future ages will produce further great advances in this realm of culture, probably inconceivable now, and will increase man's likeness to a god still more. It is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement. Words have magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. It is that we are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love, never so helplessly unhappy as when we have lost our loved object or its love. Religion is an attempt to get control over the sensory world, which we have developed inside us as a result of biological and psychological necessities. He does not believe that does not live according to his belief. When making a decision of minor importance, I have always found it advantageous to consider all the pros and cons. The scope of one's personality is defined by the magnitude of that problem which is capable of driving a person out of his wits. Religion is a system of wishful illusions together with a disavowal of reality. Life, as we find it, is too hard for us. It brings us too many pains, disappointments and impossible tasks. Men are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. Neurotics complain of their illness, but they make the most of it, and when it comes to taking it away from them they will defend it like a lioness her young. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. The ego is not master in its own house. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. The ego refuses to be distressed by the provocations of reality, to let itself be compelled to suffer. The ego represents what we call reason and sanity, in contrast to the id which contains the passions. Where id was, their ego shall be. In mourning, it is the world which has become poor and empty. In melancholia, it is the ego itself. Before you diagnose yourself with depression or low self-esteem, make sure that you're not surrounded by fools. It is easy to see that the ego is that part of the id which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic in some part or other and to a greater or lesser extent. Children are completely egoistic. They feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. The functional importance of the ego is manifested in the fact that normally control over the approaches to motility devolves upon it. Towards the outside, at any rate, the ego seems to maintain clear and sharp lines of demarcation. The poor ego has a still harder time of it. It has to serve three harsh masters, and it has to do its best to reconcile the claims and demands of all three. At the height of being in love, the boundary between ego and object threatens to melt away. There is no doubt that the resistance of the conscious and unconscious ego operates under the sway of the pleasure principle. Originally the ego includes everything. Later it detaches from itself the external world. Friendship is an art of keeping distance, while love is an art of intimacy. Everyone has wishes which he would not like to tell to others, which he does not want to admit even to himself. Dream disfigurement, then, turns out in reality to be an act of the censor. Dreams with a painful content are to be analyzed as the fulfillment of wishes. Dreams may be thus stated. They are concealed realizations of repressed desires. We are what we are, because we have been what we have been. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. The ideas so far produced are insufficient for the interpretation of the dream. The dream is a sort of substitution for those emotional and intellectual trains of thought. Dreams tell us many an unpleasant biological truth about ourselves, and only very free minds can thrive on such a diet. Self-deception is a plant which withers fast in the pellucid atmosphere of dream investigation. Out of your vulnerabilities will come to your strength. When inspiration does not come to me, I go halfway to meet it. Beauty has no obvious use, nor is there any clear cultural necessity for it. Yet civilization could not do without it. One thing about human beings puzzles me the most is their conscious effort to be connected with the object of their affection, even if it kills them slowly within. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. Dreams are often most profound when they seem the craziest.